paintings are full of unsolved mysteries. To understand the mystery of each picture, you have to get acquainted with the life and thoughts of its creator. Let these paintings come to life. Watch our new TV program at the gallery.
Labor has always been the basis of the human existence. According to Engels, labor created man. When an ape took a stick and stopped being an ape and became a human. It's an eloquent metaphor, but it shows that labor required certain experience, skills, consciousness, ability to evaluate the world around and react on it. But the main purpose of labor is to bring fruits. Fruits for human life-sustaining activity, for man's development. That's why the theme of labor in art has been the dominating one.
Human temper, our abilities, our bold attentions, our perseverance and purposefulness are most fully revealed in the labor process. Labor unites people, bringing up the spirit of fellowship and mutual help in them. Quite recently, in the epoch of the USSR, the beauty ideal in our society was inextricably related to the image of a working man. And it is not an accident that the emblem of the Soviet Union also included the symbols of labor, a sickle and a hammer. In the art of the Kazakhstani artist, this theme also took a huge place. Today, we shall get to know the works which most brightly reflected the image of man of labor, a creator. In the 30s-50s, there was an unprecedented, in its scale, industrial construction and agricultural reform in the Soviet Union. The theme of industry, the new formation of the collective farms, also became dominating in painting. The man of labor was proclaimed the main hero of the new art. Artists were inspired by energetic faces, warmed by work, dexterous movements of peasants working in fields at harvest time. The theme of labor was embodied in the various genres of painting, in portraits, genre painting, landscapes, and even in still lifes. Look how honest were the painters. They really wanted to reflect the best, reflect the changes. They aspired after it. It is not just the wave of optimism which swept over the whole country. It was the human sincerity which were building the new future. And this future should have been reflected. Actually, it was a legendary congress when the new principles of the new art were proclaimed. This new art should have been socialistic in its form and national in its content. That's the way the socialist realism appeared as an occurrence. The main conceptual provision of the socialist realism was the reflection of reality in its revolutionary development, as the communist ideologists asserted since the mid-30s. The first work on the theme of labor which we shall study is Muhit Klimov's painting Railman, which was painted in 1966. Muhit Klimov, born in 1931, passed away in 2002. The honored figure of art of the Republic of Kazakhstan, professor, participant of the Republican, Union and international exhibitions. In a general tendency to a certain universality and generalization, to show a man of labor, the artist strives after distinguishing this man's individual features. This slight state of certain tiredness accompanied by the internal state of harmony. Even in spite of tiredness, he is pleased that the day was fruitful and successful. The occupation of a railman was very honorable, and in Muhit Klimov's painting we see the portrait of a railman, who symbolizes history of the construction of the new Kazakhstan. And the railway is the road to the future, the road to the light future. It is not just a railway which transports certain freight.
There is a kind of glorification of personality. Seemingly, a worker walks with a lamp. He's a little tired. But look how handsome he is, how stately, and how all of this is conveyed by the artist.
It is now a portrait of an exact man, or of an exact occupation. This painting is a symbol, a metaphor painting. On a vertical canvas with the light background of just rising dawn, we see the dark figure. The artist decides to depict this figure in a very bold, heavy and even a bit careless strokes, but in a very raised and textured way. At that, the figure itself looks very contrastively. The artist attires with the main character with a blue suit, as if he wants to contradict it with this rising sun. The whole image is literally imbued with masculinity and confidence. Cotton Crop is the first genre painting by Kastev. It expresses the basic principles of the first stage of the first 5-year period of the Soviet state. Historical reference: Cotton Crop Painting by Abulhan Kastev, 1936. Oil on canvas. Interestingly, the artist depicts his cotton pickers accompanies and renders them assistants of unusual, interesting huge cars, which work on the principle of vacuums. The research showed that the experimental parcel of equipment called Turman was bought for real. There was an attempt to implement them into production. The attempt was not successful because moving along the field's machines harmed cotton a lot, so it turned that machines were unprofitable. What content is contained in it? First of all, it is the theme of collectivization. Kastev shows this collective work in the field. The second task is picturing a woman, because in Kazakhstan and in the Central Asian republics in general, the issue of emancipation was a key issue. That's why Kastev shows women engaged in collective work. It is a purely revolutionary painting. It is not conceived that way nowadays. We conceive it in a purely genre aspect. But at that time it was an ultimately relevant, very important and very significant work. And certainly Kastev made it consciously. Abulhan Kastev, born in 1904, passed away in 1973. Painter and aquarellist, people's artist of Kazakh Soviet Socialist Republic, the founder of the Kazakhstani fine arts.
As any artist of that time, Kastev was very proud of technical achievements, and it is no mere chance if we recall Dutch paintings, we shall see portraits of a dog or a bull. And if we refer to Abulhan Kastev's art, we see the portrait of a machine, of a bulldozer, surrounded by a beautiful landscape, though. Isayev's sculpture depicts a man, literally the man of Renaissance, because the main ideological principle of Renaissance is to show a man in his beauty, both internal and outward. Historical reference: Steel Melter Sculpture by Alexander Isayev, 1958. Bronze. If we consider classical canons, of course, it is the unique modeling, unique vision of body, texture and motion. So we see how a sculptor clearly understands each motion of every muscle in a human.
The work in general, the composition, its elasticity reminds the works of the French artist, Rodin in particular. Among the Soviet sculptors there are the works of Sherwood. So there is a collection of various sculptures which was accumulated by the Kazakhstani artist, which is seen in this work, which is very important.
It's alive, it spreads power, it spreads the spirit of this occupation. And of course we don't think who's depicted and whom the sculptor used as a model. And first of all, it is the image of steel melter.
Alexander Isayev, born in 1929, passed away in 1987. Graduated from Voroshilovgrad College of Arts and Kharkov Institute of Arts. After graduation, he was offered work as a teacher in the Almaty College of Arts. He was occupied with art simultaneously. Looking at this work, recall the antique statue of discus thrower there. Just like in this work, the artist admires the beauty of human body. But here the author also admires the noble beauty of a human labor. Let's recall one of the most famous Soviet sculptures on the labor theme, a worker and a farmer woman. It is the memorial of monumental art, the ideal and symbol of the Soviet epoch. The work represents a dynamic sculpture group of two figures with a raised sickle and hammer over their heads. The author of the sculpture is Vera Mukhina. The concept and compositional idea belong to the architect Boris Ilfan. It is not a secret that the human is inseparably associated with nature. Each year we celebrate green spring and see off golden fall. And each time we find new tones and familiar feelings. The landscape painter Nurbek Tansikbayev could see the renewal of nature in his special, own way. Nurbek Tansikbayev, born in 1926, passed away in 1976. The member of the Union of Artists of the Kazakh Soviet Socialist Republic. Born in Tashkent, studied in Tashkent College of Arts, graduated from Gogol College of Arts in Alma-Ata, lived and worked in Almaty. Landscape and industrial objects are harmonically combined in one painting. The artist's main goal here is to show humans' power of will in his mind, to show the wisdom of the Communist Party, which was able to accomplish global programs on transformation and reorganization of its landscape, and further, of the human mind and of his whole life. Historical reference: Leninagor Industrial Complex by Nurbek Tansikbayev, 1976. Oil on canvas.
Just like all Kazakhstani artists, Nurbek Tansikbayev travelled and noted the most important construction of 5-year periods, as it was accustomed at that time. They reported on each 5-year period. Of course, it was important for him to imprint this whole power of plans, power of equipment, power of construction. This occurrence, which acquired the title of industrial landscape, where nature still dominates but transformed by human activity. That those transformations were usually praised in an optimistic key. All these changes were taken very positively.
In this painting, there are no excessive contrast combinations. Everything is smooth and fulfilled in pastel colors. But still, we see how much love the author invests when painting his native land. We don't see people, but we can feel their presence. In a lorry, going far away, in details of power lines, in depiction of houses, which speckle all the free space of the painting. Nature in the artist's works is always calm and magnificent. The feeling of eternity and constancy reign here. The artist preferred using stretched and horizontal canvases in which the immense spaces of the native land were compositionally stressed. Since the 50s, the Soviet landscapes were not just nature as we saw in works by Shishkin or Levitan, and it is a completely new view at nature.
It is nature transformed by the human idea. It has changed. The landscape has changed. Something that was before and what became after. It was very important to show visual in a landscape. Industrialization is the process of launching large machine industry in all fields of national economy, and first of all, in industry. We see the typical painting in the spirit of socialistic realism, praising the labor of the epoch of industrialization. Historical reference: Painting Construction at Balkhash at Night by Yuri Zaitsev, 1935. Oil on canvas. Yuri Zaitsev was one of those who came to Kazakhstan, to Balkhash, where copper plant was built. It was a very important construction, and construction proceeded in very complicated conditions. Yuri Zaitsev, born in 1884, passed away in 1972. Painter, the honored artist of Chuvash Republic, he was sent to the creative trip to Kazakhstan, where he created this series of landscapes and portraits, and also this series of photographs. He created the diptych of the two paintings, where construction at night and construction in the day is shown, in order to stress that the process goes on during the day and at night. People strain, build, sparing no effort to fulfill the task of the party and of the government. In the foreground, the artist uses the dark basis. All figures are made at first in dark color, over which he applied very cold, thick and textured strokes, emphasizing the shining effect by that. The man who works does it with joy and enthusiasm. Let's recall the films of the 30s and 40s. We see that people work with a smile and look at all optimistically. Although the painting is rather dark, there is no drama or anxiety. Quite the opposite, the work in holiday is felt in it.
Whether it is the construction of a bridge, or Kapchagai hydroelectric power station, or anything else, or a common cotton crop, this all turns into the picture of joyful human existence.
The whole painting is built on contradiction of cold and warm colors. At the background we see the warm light of lamps, and in the foreground the cold light of welding, which adds a mystical feeling to the painting. There was even an opinion that the two main themes dominating the Soviet arts, work and holiday. So labor is work, and a holiday is the event of completion of the global business, important construction and transformation.
And this image of the youth, strength and beauty, which is expressed in this power and in readiness to any hardships. Of course, it is praising of man of labor.
Today we have presented several works of the outstanding Kazakhstani artists. Gathered in the single space of our program, these compositions create a special atmosphere of holiday and enthusiasm. And this is a very convincing evidence that it is the inspiring labor that gives people the ability to open the great creative energy of their life.